You're now listening to a new episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. Gratitude instills humility. Gratitude removes the ego. Gratitude helps empower the best in others around you. Our goal is to guide individuals and companies to practice gratitude so you can live a longer, happier, and more successful life. Get ahead of life with connection and purpose. This is Gratitude Through Hard Times with Schembra.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. It's your host, Schembra, and folks, the trees are still filled with greenery. It's the middle of November, and I can't wait for Christmas season to be upon us. I'm so excited that y'all have joined us on this wonderful episode of our humble little podcast. To all our loyal listeners out there, I welcome you back with open arms. You know, next time you're in New York City, give me a call. Our dinner table always has a seat for you. Some of my favorite moments throughout the week are when you email in your thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns of today's episode guests. So keep those words flowing. To all the new listeners, I don't know how you stumbled upon our tiny little corner of the internet, but it's good to meet you. Maybe you Googled today's guest, or maybe you were sent this episode from a caring friend. Whatever it took you to get here, it's nice to meet you. My invitation by the end of this podcast is to click that subscribe button and join us on our journey. If you look back through the podcast episode archives, you'll see our multi-year commitment to bringing on hundreds of the world's great leaders and researchers to share the human stories of how they've built what they've built and why they're obsessed with having a positive impact in our world. And you can have that impact too. So thanks for joining us for the ride. Today, I'm really excited because I think there's a lot of authors and coaches and keynote speakers out there that have wonderful messages, but today's guest has a message not too dissimilar from ours. Today, we're talking about happiness. We're talking about happiness in the workplace. Today, we have my friend Jessica Weiss, who's coming on to talk about her new book, Happiness Works. It's the science of thriving at work. Now, folks, my whole mission in life is gratitude, but not necessarily the woo-woo side of gratitude, the science and the psychology of gratitude, especially how it helps us get through our hard times and then achieve excellence in the workplace. Jessica's mission is just that. She's a happiness strategist, a TEDx speaker, a keynote speaker, a researcher who's interviewed thousands of the most successful leaders on the planet, worked with hundreds of the world's leading companies to help them build greater cultures of happiness and well-being. But the problems that she solves are around burnout, disconnection, global disengagement. She's solving really hard challenges with what appears to be a really woo-woo topic. Today, we're going to dispel the myths of the woo-woo around happiness and give you the science and psychology on why it can unlock tremendous things for your organization in a really strategic way. So grab that cup of coffee, grab that bowl of pasta sauce, and let's welcome my friend Jessica Weiss to the podcast. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, in your book, you're really talking about how to build genuine workplace friendships. You're here to cultivate positivity and resilience in challenging times. You're going to help our listeners create teams where people feel safe to innovate and take risks. You're going to give people a genuine sense of accomplishment and purpose. That is so aligned with our message. We're excited to talk about it. Now, we always have to kick off with a simple question. You've asked this question in my living room. To all the new listeners, I dedicate my entire life to one question. I first started asking it on July 15th, 2015, around a bowl of pasta sauce. And we've been asking it every day since. So, Jessica, to get us into a good, happy place, an attitude of gratitude, I ask you if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or that you've never thought to thank, who would that be?
I remember doing this in your apartment. And at the time I had said somebody else, but now that I've had a little more time to think about it, I will say my mom, because she has been the mainstay through it all. She takes the abuse and the praise. She is always there, whether it's a good moment or a not so good moment. So I am grateful for my relationship with her.
She's still with us?
She is.
What might you say to her, or how might you best express this if you were to thank her?
Um, I just need to thank her for being her. Like everything that she does is kind of just and the thing about her is that she is her at all times. Now that has driven me crazy at moments. But now in my elderly years, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So I would just tell her thank you. And
What's
I
her
I,
name?
I know I do not say it enough.
What's her name?
Riva.
Riva?
Reva.
Reva. What a beautiful name. Riva. Well, cheers, Riva, for bringing this bright light into the world. Um, what a cool thing that she is her at all times. Authenticity is a recipe for happiness. And the fact that you give her gratitude, that is a recipe for happiness. I love that we kicked off in those two ways. Let's table that and we'll talk about those kind of things in a little bit. Happiness. This isn't so. Your book was published by Wiley.
Yes.
Now, folks, if you know, Wiley is one of the premier publishers for really smart books, books that are well researched, that are scientifically backed, that are geared in the nonfiction space towards workplace success. So the fact that they published a book about happiness is so telling about the times that we live in. So paint me a picture, Jessica. Why are millions of people around the world going through the Sunday scaries?
Yeah.
We're disengaged. We're burnt out. What was your relationship to this topic in the first place? Why is it so timely in the world? And why'd you decide to write this book? Because then we'll talk about the book in a little bit.
Yeah. So I came to the topic kind of from two angles. So and I'll say the first one is kind of like goes back many years to when I was like a student at college, and I was lucky enough to take a class with Dr. Martin Seligman. And he is actually like the grandfather. At this point, I used to say father, but now he's the grandfather of this entire movement. And I was somebody who was sort of very interested in happiness as a topic, but in like a very pop culture kind of way, right? Like in like, oh, Oprah has it on TV. There's a good article in a magazine. Like it was just something that I was interested in. But once kind of sat down in this class with Dr. Seligman, it was eye opening, and his perspective was so brilliant. And it was from his perspective that was like this really tangible, practical, non woo woo, because I am like the least woo woo person you will ever meet. So he was really like my first taster to it. So that was just like from a very personal perspective. I never thought I would have a career doing it. It just didn't occur to me. It was just something that I was interested in. So I then later, I went to college, I graduated, yay me, and then I got an MBA. And after you get an MBA, at least where I went to school, there are two predetermined career paths. You either become an investment banker or you become a management consultant. So I was not cut out for the investment banking world because I'm still barely Excel literate, but I did go to be a management consultant. And the work that I did there, the consulting work that I found really interesting, not surprisingly, is the people stuff, right? It was all around the culture and the people and what makes a company thrive and all of those kind of questions that you would think that I would be interested in. And I would do a lot of coaching and I would do a lot of team coaching. And the question that kept coming up in all of my sessions, whether it was coaching C-suite leaders or teams of young professionals, whatever it was always around like, I want to be more happy at work. Like when I do this kind of work, I love my work. How do I do more of this kind of work? I want to have more happiness at work. And I heard the word happiness at work. And then I have my own sort of passion about happiness. And that's how I got to the place of saying, hey, I think there's something here. And the part that I'm sort of leaving out is I was somebody who was also looking for happiness at work, right? And I went through many iterations, let's say, of not finding it to actually understand what it is to find it. And through my own trial and error, I found happiness at work is actually what you create. It's what you drive. So people say to me all the time, like, oh, I have this fantastic interview. It's going to be my dream job. And then surprise, surprise, they land in the job and it's not their dream job. And what I learned through my own practice is you create your dream job. You are the person who designs your dream job. No one hands that stuff to you. You do it. And once you unlock that is when you have happiness at work.
It's so cool that you're saying that you can create this happiness and not need to hope or dream about it in the future. And you can create the happiness even through imperfect conditions. So first of all, for the people that are watching this, what did that yearning look like to you? Just give that flavor to that for 30 seconds where you look good on paper. You were a management consultant at a top tier firm, but you realized there was a disconnection. What's the first step people can take right now to realize, oh, maybe it doesn't all add up and maybe I should be seeking to create a new reality for myself?
So the first thing, if you are feeling disengaged, disconnected, burnt out, miserable, whatever it is, the first thing that I tell people to do is find a friend at work. That's going to be the most impactful thing that you can do. It's going to change the course of everything. It is going to make every single minute better. It is going to make your life better. It is going to make your work better, but find a friend at work.
There's a writer named Sebastian Junger who wrote a book called Tribe on homecoming and belonging. And he says that through hard times, people don't mind going through hard times. They just mind going through the hard times alone.
Yep. Yep.
So Jessica's whole strategy on making a friend as step one couldn't be more true.
Yeah.
But
And
there you go.
no, I was going to say in the book, the thing is, I say that a lot to people. They say, like, what's the number one thing you can do for happiness at work? And I always say it's find a friend at work. And they're like, really? That's it? And I'm like, yeah, that's it. And then the question becomes, all right, well, how do I do that? Like, that feels weird. Like, what am I supposed to do? Go around and make friends? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And in the book, I actually say some really easy ways to do it. But yeah, it's, making friends as an adult is a little bit of a weird experience, but a necessary key to happiness.
You have laid out in the book, and let's address the naysayers. You've laid out in the book that a lot of people's belief about happiness is actually filled with myths. That whoever is listening to this, us talk about, yeah, this is a science-backed book. It's about some topic called happiness. They're probably saying like 5 things to themselves that are saying, no, but, no, but, no, but. Well, you dispel that pretty early on, that there's a few myths about people's perceptions of happiness that need to be dispelled. Can you run through a few of those?
Well, I think the first one is that happiness is a lack of unhappiness. And I actually think that that's not true at all. When I talk about happiness and I get into these like war of words with people, well, I'm looking for joy. Well, I'm looking for contentment. Well, I'm looking for, listen, all I'm looking, let's look for all of it. Like, it's all good to me. But the thing that when I talk about happiness, I'm talking about long-term sustainable happiness. And that does not mean that you wake up every single day in a good mood. What it means is you have a toolkit that you can rely on, whether you're in a good mood or a bad mood, whether things are going your way or not going your way. But you can always rely on those tools to bring you more happiness in life. And it's this idea that it's like long-term sustainable happiness.
Mm-hmm. Folks, there's a lot of different therapy programs I've been through in life to try to cure my isms, my addiction, my alcoholism, my whatever I'm addicted to at the time. And by far the two greatest programs I've ever used to study tactical skills-based, tools-based solutions to an emotion that arises like fear, sadness, anger, guilt, shame. One is called dialectical behavioral therapy, which teaches you mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, distress tolerance. And the second program is Jessica's book, Happiness Works. It's so action oriented with tactical and tangible things to do that whatever emotion or situation arises, you've already written the solution to it.
Well,
It's
that's the whole point.
you,
I want it to be, and I want people to look at happiness not as a day-to-day choice. People love to say happiness is a choice. And I say, actually, it's not. It's not a choice. It's something way more tangible than a choice. It's tools, it's strategies, it's tactics. And I think that is absolutely fantastic, because to make happiness a choice feels so, like, not stable, right? It's like, how is that? That's not a real thing. But if you have tools and tactics and strategies, we go beyond a choice. It's just a reality.
so in your book, um, one of the chapters that you're writing about, and we could talk about the overall structure of the book, but on this topic, one of the topics that you write about is resilience.
Mhm.
And this is the idea of saying, how do you use happiness to actually make you stronger to get through the hard times? And one of the subtopics under resilience is the power of small choices.
Yep.
Folks, your faraway future may look uncertain. We live in a volatile, chaotic, uncertain, anxiety riddled environment that you don't know what 20 years from now may bring. But you can do a couple things in the small run to get through it, to get stronger, to be more happy. And Jessica, starts off with just that, the power of small choices.
Yeah. So it's this idea that you can practice micro decisions. So you build your confidence through making small decisions. So I don't know if you're anything like me, but I get like analysis paralysis, right? When I have too many choices, I literally get analysis paralysis, and it drives me crazy when I can't make a decision. So resilience, very similar to the way that I talk about happiness generally, resilience is a muscle. And it's a muscle that you have to build. Like, we're not born with resilience. It's not a trait that some people have and some people don't have. It's a muscle that you need to exercise and take to the proverbial gym and build it up. And the easiest way to do it is to do these micro decisions. So really small decisions really quickly will build confidence and small wins. And that is the first little baby step to resilience.
Mm. It sounds like the power of a positive psychology micro intervention. A bunch of tiny little things done over and over will help,
Yeah.
change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, I also talk about it in the context, and I love this idea. I talk about it in the context that there are two kinds of people when it comes to decision making. There's maximizers and there's satisficers. Maximizers are people who will take forever to make a decision, but they will make the most brilliant decision. They will research every option. They will talk to every single person who they can talk to, who knows anything about it, but it will take them forever to make that decision. And then there are satisficers. Those are people who go through life with good enough. Like, you know what? I have enough information. It's good enough. And people who are satisficers get more happiness and enjoyment from their decision than the people who are maximizers. So, like those people who torture themselves that, oh my God, it has to be the best watch I've ever seen ever. That's not going to get you to a happy place. Get to good enough and enjoy your decision and live your life.
My buddy Ben taught me that. He was the founder of the fourth fastest growing company in the country a few years back. They raised a $400 million Series B, which is very large for such an early round. And he taught his team, if you're 90% certain of the right answer, go for it. Otherwise, you risk spending 90% of your time figuring out the final 10%.
Exactly. Well said. I love that.
So happiness is something that you create, and you lay out a very simple 5-part framework that people can start using tomorrow to engineer this happiness into their lives. What is that 5-part framework as a high-level overview?
So there are 5 steps. They come in any order that you want them to, and they're not really prioritized except for the first one. So the first one is around friendship and connection, right? So that goes back to that first question that you asked me. We need friendship and connection, whether it's at work or in life, but that's the first step in the framework. The second one is what you asked me about. It's this idea of resilience. I call resilience the backbone of happiness. It's like the sustainability of happiness. That's the second one. I'm probably going in the wrong order. That's not in the book, but
Perfect.
The third one is around this idea of optimism. I talk about optimism from a perspective of strategic optimism or practical optimism. So it's not anything having to do with toxic positivity. It's more about you're going exactly what this podcast is about. You're going to face setbacks. You're going to face difficulties, but it's this idea that you approach life with a solution minded lens, right? It's going to be tough. It's going to suck, but we're going to get through it. So there's optimism. The fourth one is around trust. So you want to work with people who you can trust. You want to be on teams with people that you can trust, where you're allowed and free to say what you want, that you can get into disagreements and arguments and everything is going to be okay. So you need to work in an environment with trust. And the last one, which is very personal to me, is this idea around progress. So in order for me to have happiness in life and happiness at work, I always need to feel that I am making progress. If I am not making progress, I am miserable. There's probably a lot of therapy to be had around that idea, which is a conversation for another time. But it is this idea that every day you go to work and you accomplish something. And I know that everyone knows the feeling of like when you're on emails all day or when you're going from meeting to meeting all day, and then you find yourself at the end of the day and you're like, what did I even do today? Like, what did I even get done today? So for me, that idea of building in progress every single day is essential to happiness. I'm always proud of myself when I can name the 5 steps.
I think you name them. It's what's so cool is that you've given people permission not to need to follow
Exactly.
them in sequential order, but give them a series of tools that they can use at any moment's notice that they have at their disposal.
Exactly. And I also say, this is one of my favorites. I say, look, I give you a buffet, right? This is the happiness buffet. Here's the smorgasbord of tools and strategies and tactics. Some of these are going to resonate with you. Some of these may not resonate with you. But my suggestion is you take a double serving of, let's say, resilience. But maybe the optimism stuff doesn't resonate with you. Leave the optimism in the chafing dish, but do friendship and resilience and trust and all of that will equal happiness.
My whole thing is, under gratitude. What is the and gratitude in Marty Seligman's book falls under the virtue of transcendence. Where does happiness fit in that equation under, positive psychology? And what is the relationship that the impact that gratitude has on mindset? You write a lot about mindset for optimism and for resilience. What is gratitude's impact on that?
Gratitude is sort of woven in throughout the entire book, right? So I talk about a joy journal, and that's a happiness journal. And the joy journal is really, it comes into play specifically in the resilience chapter, but quite honestly, it can come in any chapter at all. The joy journal is directly linked to gratitude, right? So when people do a gratitude journal, they're saying the things that they are thankful for. I put my own twist on it and I said it's a joy journal, the things that brought you happiness that day and why. So very similar to when we consciously take a moment to be grateful for whatever is happening in the present, a joy journal does exactly the same thing, right? It grounds you in the present. It makes you, it's a mindset shifter in that just like gratitude, it makes you look for the joyful moments throughout the day, just like you would look for the things that you're grateful for. And it goes specifically to building that resilience muscle because once you acknowledge the joy, you're grateful for the moments, you're living in the present, all of that is like completely intertwined.
It's cool, the active, the active approach that you take to seeking joyful moments. Um, it's the same habit of seeking to turn failure into a positive. What's that journey to look at something really bad that's happening and say, this isn't my, this isn't happening to me. This is happening for me. Now let's get strategic about how we respond.
Yeah. So that one, I think it comes into play in the optimism chapter and it comes into play in the resilience chapter, and it probably comes into play in the progress chapter too. And what that is about is failure is inevitable. Crap happening is inevitable. Happens to all of us. Happens way more than we want it to. That is sort of a truth of life that is undeniable. But more importantly, okay, we all acknowledge that that's going to happen. Now, how are we going to deal with it? So, what I talk about specifically in the book is when things go wrong. And when, let's say, you've been working on a project for 6 months and now it's been tabled, or they chose somebody else, or you went for an interview and you didn't get the job. What is most important is what you take away in terms of the feedback that you can learn from. One of the most brilliant gifts that you can give yourself in life is depersonalizing yourself from the emotion of the event, right? When you depersonalize yourself and just take things as facts and data and use that to build the happiness muscle, the resilience muscle, the progress in life, you will be giving yourself the ultimate gift. I always say that if we can figure out how to depersonalize rejection, failure, that is the ultimate gift.
I think there's actually a I don't know, I didn't see that you wrote about it, but in the world of DBT, under the quadrant of emotion regulation, there's an exercise called check the facts, which means zoom a little bit out,
Yep.
write it all down,
Yep.
and then just check the facts. Is this going to kill me? No.
Exactly.
Am I going to lose a limb? No.
Yep.
Is my family going to disown me? No. Am I going to lose my job? Actually, probably not.
Yeah. Even though we
Okay.
kind of think we are in the moment.
Okay. So maybe I fell short on a quota. I might not get the bonus, but I'm not going to lose my job.
Right. Or maybe, I mean, I mentioned in the book a story about somebody who put together a proposal and they came back to her and they said, listen, we've decided to go in a different direction. We're focusing more on scaling than we are on whatever the original story was. And they gave her this gift of like really great feedback of why they've decided to go in a different direction. So what she did was she depersonalized it. Like she was disappointed and she was unhappy. She depersonalized it. She took the feedback. She created a new proposal and she won the work. So by taking the emotion out and using feedback as a tool is a brilliant way to build resilience, progress, all that good stuff.
Well, it's very important, and you said it earlier about positive future-oriented solutions. Feedback can either be a net negative if it's delivered in the wrong way, or if if it's feedback is, you know, like a masking for complaining, and you write a
Yep.
lot about, stop complaining. That we can touch on that in a sec. But feedback is a great thing to help people see a better tomorrow. And the simple shift is, instead of talking about what went wrong, you can focus on how to make something better.
Yep.
Right? What went wrong is diagnosing the negative from the past. What can go better is talking about a future-oriented solution.
Yep, I love that. Listen, I have mixed feelings on feedback too. I do a lot of coaching, and I always say about feedback, consider the source. That's a big one.
Yeah.
The second one is you don't have to believe every piece of feedback that you're given.
What? Oh,
And
sorry.
the
You go.
third, no, go ahead.
You go.
And I was going to say, and the third one is you decide what you want to do about that feedback.
Yeah. The consider the source, I think, really ties into your whole chapter on trust.
Yeah.
You got to trust the source. You got to know the source has the best intention. This comes by building the right relationships with people. Build positive, happiness-oriented activities in friendships with people before the
Yes.
crisis of negative feedback needs to occur.
No, exactly. And I think that people don't realize that trust is like a critical piece of that feedback chain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's actually the most important piece, because if I don't trust the person who's delivering the feedback, I'm not listening to it.
My friend Enrico Galasso, the CEO of Peroni, the global beer brand, global CEO of Peroni, he does skip level meetings in which the first question he asks is a gratitude question. If you had to give gratitude to your manager, what would it be? The second question is, if you were able to give the gift of feedback to your manager, what would you say that betters them tomorrow? That's
awesome.
It's in that kind of, okay, let's start nailing it down and starting to land the ship. You write about forecasting, future casting, as a way of, having success metrics and measuring your progress. You're kind of pioneering a little movement, or maybe you're an early adopter to a movement that Marty Seligman pioneered. I don't know what you want to say, but what does success in the future for this movement around happiness look like for you? What do you hope happens due to all of these kind of conversations, and why is that needed now with what's going on in the world with AI?
Yeah. Well, I think that after decades and decades of research, we actually have like a whole body of evidence that this happiness thing is real, right? It actually impacts in terms of business, it actually impacts the bottom line. There was a study out of Oxford that showed that companies where employees were quote unquote happier or more engaged or more connected at work outperformed the S&P 500 by something like 30%. Yeah, it was insane. So what makes me happy is that we now have that entire body of research to rely on. Okay. So there's no fluff. There's no skeptics here. Like, I meet with skeptics on this topic on a regular basis, but like, you can't deny decades and decades of research. So what I hope to see going forward is exactly that we all understand that this idea of happiness at work, not only is it a fantastic thing for individuals, not only is it a fantastic thing for teams and productivity and innovation and creativity, it's a fantastic thing for organizations. Like, why can't we try to make people's lives a little bit better? And at the same time, you'll also make more money. You'll also have better profits, right? This is a win-win for everybody. So that is what I hope we start to see more in conversations going forward, especially in light of how bleak it's been, right? With the layoffs, with the government shutdown, it's just been really, it's been kind of dark. And I hope that we have time for a little bit to let the light in.
I love it. Folks, Jessica's version of happiness covers, or frameworks around happiness cover all hierarchies of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Happiness can be at the bottom, basic comfort and security. And it can go above that and above that and above that, all the way up to meaning and purpose. So you don't necessarily have to think about your meaning and purpose and legacy and personal growth, and that's your entry point to happiness. You might not be up at the top of the pyramid just yet. No, she's talking about the base layer as well. She's talking about the base layer of literal well-being and financial stability. Happiness helps with that. And so if you're missing that, if you're wondering where your food's going to come from, if you're wondering if you're going to have a job at the end of the year, if you're literally worried about the bottom, happiness is the solution. If you're there, if you've succeeded, if you've got 5,000 employees, tons of cash in the bank, you're doing great, and you want to go to the top of the pyramid, happiness is the tool. So Jessica, the way she wrote this book is it's applicable up and down the hierarchy of Maslow's needs. And so there's something in her book for each and every one of you. So go check out the book. Go support her. Go thank her mom if you have the chance. Any last words in closing, Jessica?
This was a fantastic conversation, Chris. Thank you so much. And I want to know when I get to come over for dinner again.
Oh my gosh, let's do it. I'm gonna not publicly announce the date of the next gratitude dinner, but folks, thank you for coming along this journey. Thanks for giving it a shot. If you've made it this far in the episode, you may not be in the majority of how the people around you think. They may think you're weird or extra or woo-woo for even having this on your Spotify playlist, but you made it this far. You're part of this slowly growing silent majority or silent minority or loud minority around this, whatever it is, silent majority around this work. You know it's what the world needs. Your mission overlaps with mine. That's why you're here. I'm telling you, it overlaps with Jessica's. Go check out all her links to the book in the show notes below. Go check out the research she's done, the keynote speeches she gives, the coaching work that she does, and the writing that she does in many great publications. So thanks for tuning in. To all the loyal listeners, good to see you, my friend. Give me a call next time you're in town. To all the new listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. I invite you to click that subscribe button and join us along for the journey. Please send this episode to a friend in need. I hope you're having a phenomenal day on Earth. Remember, folks, it's your world. Go explore. See you next time.